What's going on, Grizz Nation? Welcome back. The Grizzlies are back home for one game. They tip off at 7 o'clock tonight at FedEx Forum. They take on the San Antonio Spurs for the third time this season. Mike, you look down at kind of what these two teams do. They play very similar basketball. They are both top 10 and all the things that the Grizzlies are good at: points in the paint, fast break points, second chance points, rebounding, scoring. You're looking at a team that you can kind of tell that Coach Jenkins has come from a pop kind of path. So when you look at what these teams do, how these two teams play, how do the Grizzlies continue their winning streak against the Spurs? How do they differentiate themselves tonight?
Kelcey, you make a great point because there are two or three teams in the league where you look at stylistically, you could tell the Grizzlies implemented those similar type styles. And obviously San Antonio because of the Popovich tree, but you also look at Utah, Quinn Snyder, Milwaukee, Mike Budenholzer, the way Atlanta used to play. Those are all influences that Taylor Jenkins learned from, and you're seeing that play out with the Grizzlies as well. If you're Memphis, though, you know that you're a superior team in terms of experience and talent. You know that you have more depth right now than San Antonio. So this has to be a professional game. This has to be a professional approach. And if the Grizzlies can get to their game, force turnovers, deflections, blocks, create turnovers that lead to fast break opportunities, pound the paint, score the ball in the paint, and let Steven Adams do his thing on the offensive boards to sort of offset what San Antonio does in terms of offensive rebounding. And I think the Grizzlies can get a nice little home victory right here to keep this thing going. What do you see?
Yeah, this is number one in the league and number two in the league in points in the paint. The Grizzlies in the last two games have out rebounded or outscored them in the paint 72-48 and 62-50. So it is another one of those let's get points in the paint. You mentioned doing what the Grizzlies do well in forcing turnovers. This Spurs team does not turn the ball over very much. Again, it's mirrors what the Grizzlies do. The Grizzlies protect the ball real well. That's what they have in Ja. That's what they have in Tyus when he comes off the bench. The Spurs kind of have that same thing. So if you're the Grizzlies and you're playing this team, there's got to be one thing, Mike, when you look at it that could be a difficult task, like forcing turnovers. What do the Grizzlies need to focus on?
Well, they want to keep the Spurs, out of the paint as much as possible. DeJounte Murray is a guy that can be a headache. Even when the Grizzlies beat the Spurs, DeJounte has some games where he has some impact. And then you look at the Spurs bench, they bring in guys that have some energy there. We talk about Lonnie Walker, guys that can get into that frenetic pace and get you sort of out of your rhythm defensively. So it's going to be assignment-specific defense. I know it sounds like a cliche, but if you're the Grizzlies on offense, what you want to do, I don't see anybody on the Spurs that can match up. And we talked about this the last time they played the Spurs. They don't have a matchup with Jaren Jackson Jr. And we saw Ja Morant go off for 46 last game. I would love to see Jaren get himself into a 28 to 30-point game one of these days so that they can go to him and continue to go to him while he operates. They can't keep him off the line. They can't keep him out of the paint. And they definitely can't keep him off the post. I want to see Jaren try to dominate this game.
All right, you bring up Jaren. Before you did, you brought up DeJounte Murray. Now, this Spurs team is coming off of a close loss to a very good Heat team. They were without Murray, they were without Johnson, they were without Pirtle. Now, they're not on the injury list as of right this second. So it does look like maybe it was a little bit of a back-to-back rest type thing. So they should be back in today. If they are, DeJounte Murray in his last game had 31 points, 14 assists, 13 rebounds. How do you stop him?
I mean, you have to put different bodies on him. This is not going to be a Ja Morant assignment. This has to be a multiple guy assignment. I would say pick up where you left off in Chicago. Go ahead and put Kyle Anderson on him to give him and again, that's a speed disadvantage for Kyle, but Kyle is a smart defender. He knows where to get to position wise. So you're going to see Kyle, you're going to see DeAnthony Melton, you're going to see Desmond Bane, and you're going to see Ja Morant. All of those guys take turns on him, plus maybe Zaire Williams. So he's going to see as many as 5 defenders, giving them different looks throughout this game. And that's the best thing you could do.
All right. And last but not least, both these teams like to run, Mike. These are two fast break teams, pushing the pace teams. The Grizzlies are at home finally, and we know that they love playing in front of FedEx Forum fans. In order to stop their transition defense, what do you think is the main key for the Grizzlies coming into this game?
You have to get stops, right? You have to get back in transition defense. You got to secure your rebounds as much as possible, and you got to pound them. Like basically, what I love is that even when Ja has big time scoring games, Steven Adams sets the tone with his physicality. Mm-hmm. If we set the tone with our physicality and defensive swarming, I don't think the San Antonio Spurs can stay in this game, with the Grizzlies, especially on a night like tonight, where the Grizzlies hadn't had but 3 home games in February. Last game of the month. It's also HBCU night, which is a big time game and a big time environment. So I hope the Grizzlies play with that energy, but that energy is going to have to come in defensive transition. If they can get back in transition, load up, not allow the Spurs to get a lot of shots like that at the paint or at the 3-point line from early looks, I think the Grizzlies could be okay.
All right, you chose Jaren Jackson Jr. for your
Yes.
player that you hope to have a big game for the Grizzlies. You got to do the flip side too. Take DeJounte Murray off of it because he is the all-star. Who do you expect maybe hope doesn't, but maybe will have a good game for the Spurs?
You know who's hurt us? I mean, DeJounte, obviously, because he gets every kind of stop.
Lonnie Walker?
It's not Lonnie Walker. It's actually Pirtle. Pirtle's offensive rebounding and energy off the bench has been a problem. Because he just gets into areas where you just don't expect him to be. He can't shoot free throws, though. So if you put him on the line, he's not going to make free throws. But he's always in that offense. He's kind of a sneakier version of Steven Adams. So when Steven is not on the floor, the Grizzlies have to be assignment specific to know where Pirtle is, getting those extra possessions that can lead to 3-point shots, open looks, and skittish kind of plays for the Spurs.
There you go. I like it. So let's contain Pirtle off the bench if he's back. I would assume that he's back. DeJounte Murray, Keldon Johnson, I would assume that they're back as well. I'm going to take the easy way out, and I'm going to say that John Morant kind of continues his streak right now. He is just on absolute fire, and it would be so crazy to think that after a 46-point performance, he doesn't continue to have, I think he like 20 or plus point games, like 16 or 17 in a row now. So I'm going to take the easy way out right now and say that John Morant continues. He's playing against a guy that he played against or with in the All-Star game just last week. So I think he shows up and shows out for the last game of the month, the one of, what did you say? One of 3 games this month at home. So he's going to show out in front of FedEx Forum fans. So if you want to come and you want to watch Ja and Jaren and everyone, Desmond, Kyle, we could go on and on. You can get your tickets at 901-888-HOOP or on grizzlies.com. If you're chilling at home, make sure you're tuned in. Valley Sports Southeast.